What in the heck is happening on Earth? Today, I want to talk a little bit with you about New Earth Ascension, the split, and what is actually happening and why things are happening on Earth the way that they're happening. Because if you look around, things seem a little chaotic. Whether we wanted this or not, we're in it. And I have been getting messages and insight about New Earth for several years. And I'm going to share some of that in this episode. I'm going to share some details that I have been teaching for many years about New Earth Ascension, about the split that is happening in the energy, and why this is happening now and the impact that is having on humanity. I'm also going to share a little bit about some insights and visions that I got regarding leadership and what is possibly going to happen in the next several years. And I am going to also tune in to my spirit guides during this episode to see if there's any other intuitive messages that want to come through to support you, us, all of, humanity through this ascension, and give us a little bit of insight about why this is happening and how to navigate this time that we're in. The energy's dense right now on Earth if you are tuned into the collective. And so before I even jump into this, I'm going to encourage you to ground yourself, to maybe do a quick little energy clearing, like kind of just push away negative energy, put a bubble of light around you, protect yourself, ask your own spirit guides to come through and support you as you move through hearing this teaching. And use your intuition too. Maybe you're going to get a message from your higher self or your guides as you listen to these insights and visions that I got from mine. Welcome to the Soul Alignment Mentor podcast. I'm your host, Angie, and I'm inviting you to explore the depths of self-sabotage, limiting mindsets, and the beliefs that hinder our progress in life. Through intuitive messages I receive from my spirit team, I share profound insights to help you live authentically and break free from these limitations. Join me now as we uncover all the keys to living your best life. Welcome back. My name is Angie, and I'm your Soul Alignment Mentor, bringing you intuitive messages from my spirit team to help you align with your most authentic and highest self. Before I jump into this, I would love if you could subscribe, share this episode so that it can get to more people and help to grow my channel. I'd be super grateful. And if you are needing any support or guidance or mentorship, check out my membership options and see if any of those align with you. And I can be there to help guide you through any thing going on in your life, whether that's healing or ascension or spiritual awakening, whatever that might be for you. So today, like I said, I hope that you spend a moment to breathe and ground as we get into this episode. But I want to give some insights of what I have been receiving from my higher self and spirit team for the last probably 5 years about the ascension. And what the ascension involves is us as humanity moving into what we would call New Earth. And New Earth is simply a term that is being used to help describe an energy shift. So, as humans and as spiritual beings, we might try to create scenarios or stories or narratives in our head about what things are. And it's not necessarily that this is not actually creating a new earth, because I do believe in the long term, in the energy, that there will be an actual physical new earth. But in the timeline that we are in currently, as we are here on Earth, we are not likely to experience an actual physical new Earth. Now, as generations move into this earthly realm and come into this energy, they will likely start to experience more of what we would call the new earth in the physical form than what we here, those who are here on earth now, are going to experience. I think that there's a tendency to hear new earth and ascension and have this idea that in the near future that the earth will look completely different and humanity is going to be like no more struggles, no more concerns, no more war or violence, no more anything bad. And in some aspects that is true. It is going to shift into a way that brings more love and harmony and peace among humans on earth. But it's also not necessarily going to take away any type of struggle. The struggles are just going to shift into a new frequency. In the 3D dense energy that we have been a part of in the collective for billions of years, however long we have been coming to incarnate on this physical earth here, that energy held within it the really dense emotions and behaviors and beliefs that came through violence or lack or fear or just these really hard struggles that humans have to go through, even war, even um, negative beliefs about ourselves, or humanity struggling to love one another. Like there's all this really heavy, dense energy within the 3D realm. And our spirits and our souls purposely wanted to experience that, because in that energy, we are so completely separated from our true, most authentic, and highest self that we experience something completely opposite of who we are. It is like the yin and yang, the light and darkness, and the two parts of an energy, the two parts of a battery. We came from the highest frequency into one of the lowest frequencies in the universe to learn and experience and understand our own selves in a different way. And it's almost like until you know that there's something out there to experience, until you go through something, you don't really even know what that is like to go through it. You hear things from maybe other people and humans that talk about like maybe a sickness they've been in, or maybe a death they experienced with a loved one, or maybe a losing a job, or maybe financial difficulties, or maybe, whatever the challenges that might come on somebody. And we can, in a sense, empathetically relate to other people. But if we haven't actually experienced it in this lifetime, we really don't understand what that person is going through. I know for myself that I had death in my life. I had lost my grandmother. I lost all my grandparents before I was like, they were all gone by the time I was 22. And so I didn't have grandparents for very long in my life. And the one person that was closest to me that I called Granny, she helped raise me and my little brother. When I lost her at age 19, that was a very, very deep wound for me, because she was one of the most important people in my life, like a second mom to me. And so that loss was very hard for me, but I was not the same person then that I am now. And the way I processed that and the way I moved through that was much different. And I would say that it did impact me, but my understanding of death at that time was so different than what I understand now, because I had this thought that death was just this permanent thing, and it was negative and it was bad, and I, like, the grief that I held on to was a way to honor that loved one by being sad and by thinking about the fact that they're not alive anymore, and so holding on to that. So I look back at my life and I see the difference even between how I deal with some of the things that come up in my reality. And then when I lost my father, my dad, back in September of 2020, that death was completely different for me. Of course, it was a parent, and the depth of grief that I felt was really, really heavy. I remember feeling like I have never felt this sad before. Yet something awoken in me through that experience where I transformed in a way that I never would have anticipated, because as I was ascending and growing and becoming more aware of myself as a spiritual being and connecting with spirits, and then my dad coming through and connecting with me and talking to me and sharing with me what it's like for him as a spirit back in the higher dimensions, my awareness of who I am and who humans are and who spirits are became completely opposite of what it had been back when I was dealing with the grief of my granny. And so, not that I didn't have grief, and it's not that I don't miss my dad physically here on earth, but I have an understanding that he is not really dead, that this earth, this experience is such an illusion. It's like a play. It's like we come and we're in a computer game, and our higher self is like the one playing the game and projecting itself into this experience, and then we get to have the experience and we think that we're real. I always think about the game Sims. If you know what the game Sims is, just like these people, like you pick a character, and you become that character and you build a life and you develop relationships and you have a home, and it's just like a simulation or like a fake world that you are in control of. And so I kind of see that as who we are, like this body, this experience, this world, this energy, this home, everything about my life is that computer game. And then my higher self has the mouse or the remote control up there, like trying to help navigate me through it. And so I understand now that this experience is not as permanent as what I thought it was prior to my awakening, prior to my ascending into a higher energy and frequency. And so, as I have awoken more to the truth of us being spiritual beings and understanding why we come to earth and what the purpose of our earthly life is, I have let go of some of the harsh beliefs or energies around the obstacles that we experience, because I understand in a sense that they're here as tools to have the experience that I'm in. And when we allow ourselves to see things as tools, as an experience, as growing opportunities for our higher self, that part of ourself navigating this, then we let go of the illusion or the stories and the narratives that we create about the world around us or about ourselves. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. There are things that I still have a story about regarding my life, regarding my connections with other people, regarding money, regarding work, purpose, the world, what is happening right now in the United States. I still can get caught up in that 3D narrative and become a part of it, believing fully that this is the reality. And the truth of it is the reality that we're in right now. And so allowing ourselves to both have a human experience and understanding ourselves as spiritual beings is a balance that can be really difficult, especially in hard times. So, what I want to share today is, just as if we're evolving in our understanding of maybe what grief is or what obstacles are or what is happening around us, and we see this as like really negative energy and negative experiences and really sad experiences as well happening throughout the world, especially here in the United States, we have the ability to merge with that and combine with it and believe it and hold on to that narrative, or the ability to shift our perspective a little bit differently into a higher energy and perspective and look at it from that point of view of our higher self that is navigating us, and understand that this world, the illusion that is providing for us, is happening for the purpose of the expansion of our soul and the universe as a whole. And so as I have been working with my guides and higher self over the last several years and asking more and more questions about new earth and awakening and ascension, the things that have come through to me have been helpful, and they have also been a little challenging at times for me. And so I'm going to share a little bit about these visions with you now. So I would say probably 4.5 years ago is when I very first started getting random, I will just say visions in my meditations. I remember sitting in meditation one day, and I will draw you some pictures of these. I know that I like to draw these things for people to see them, but what I saw was a round circle, and the round circle started to split. And I remember asking my higher self, what the heck did I just see? And my higher self explained to me, this is the shift of the earth. This is the splitting of energies. This is the letting go of that old dense energy and belief system and emerging into a new one, into awakening, into a new frequency and consciousness. And so what I want you to understand is that that dense energy, that the where we have been as a human race, as a earth beings, has been the way that it has been for a purpose. It played its part for us to experience that energy. But many of us that have been coming to earth and incarnating who knows how many times, some of us could have had thousands of lives here on earth and have no idea. Each time that we have come back into this experience, we've learned and learned and learned. And then we go back to our higher self and we're like, oh, that and that and that. I'm going to go back and try again. I'm going to go back and do that. I still remember I had a past life regression in the last couple years where after I died in that life, I remember the first thought that I had when I went back to the other side and was doing my life review and looking back at that life, thinking, you know, what could I have done different? I remember thinking as a soul, as a spirit, I want to go back. I want to go try again. I want to go fix that. Like that was my thought as a spirit, was like, okay, let's do it. Let's do this again. Let's try again. And I do have an understanding now that each time that we have gone through a life, we it's almost like we went to the most, we created a soul plan and we said, I'm going to go learn all these things on that earth down there. And that challenge is something I want to learn through, and I want to have that challenge, but I'm going to play this time. I'm going to go down and I'm going to be a man. And I'm going to be a man in that area. And I'm going to learn from that life. And then you go through that life and you come back into your spirit and you're like, okay, so I learned this, this, and this, but I didn't really get that right. So I'm going to go back. And this time I'm going to go back as a woman. And I'm going to play a part that is going to teach me something that I wanted to learn from that last life. And I'm going to go through that life and I'm going to play that role and I'm going to be that person. I'm going to learn those experiences. And then I'm going to go back into my spirit. And then I'm going to look at that life and say, okay, so with these two lives that I've lived, these two human experiences that I've had, this was the lessons. These were the things I experienced. There's a couple more things I want to work on. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back as this. I'm going to go back as another man. I'm going to go back, in this area on the earth. And so you're accumulating experiences throughout your reincarnations. And each time that you're coming back into your higher self, you're coming back with the awareness of what you learned while you were on earth. And then you have a ability, or if you desire in your higher self, to come back and continue to learn. And in a way, karma is kind of being stored up in our energy field, because that is what we're coming back to work through. And so many of us that have been coming here to earth multiple times through our reincarnation process, we're at that point where we don't necessarily need any more of these 3D energies or lessons to teach us. We've come, we've experienced, we've learned, we have, in this particular lifetime and right now, why many of us are fully, truly awakening to our higher self is because we're ready to do so, because we have worked through all those lessons that our soul first originally wanted to work through. And we're coming to the place of understanding of ourself beyond this reality. And because of that, in a way, you could say we're graduating to the next dimension. And so in order for that to happen, in order for like a new character to be developed, or a new race to be developed, or a new physical experience to be developed, the earth is also working with us, because we are the earth. The earth and humanity are one energy. So as humanity is going through the process, so was earth. So was Mother Earth. Gaia was experiencing its cycles and karmic energies and traumas and shifts and floods and all these different things happening within its energy, and is coming into a rebirth itself. So it's like a constant death and rebirth that we've been going through to learn and elevate through. And now we've come to that point where those of us who are ready to split off into the higher frequency, into New Earth, we have carried into our soul these lessons where we are now emerging into the frequency that we can shift in a vibration where we hold a higher energy to be able to be at a different level for a physical experience. And in many ways, the other dimensions, other planetary systems, star systems, beings out in the universe that we don't even know are there, I think that humans have a very limited belief about what is actually outside of this experience. We are coming into the awareness that there are extraterrestrial beings. We're coming into the awareness of the Lemurians, of the Octarians, of all these different star systems, the Pleiadians. Like there's all these different connections that we have in the universe with these different beings. But up until the point where we were ready to see beyond the physical realm, we haven't really necessarily been aware. And it's been interesting how the evolution of the human race have shifted into this life and death and in this rebirth throughout the time of Earth. And Earth actually has frequencies and reminiscences and memories within it that hold the vibration of understanding who we are. Because at some point, before we really started to forget who we were, as we continue to take on dark energy, continue to have experiences, we still had that connection. We still had that understanding that I'm a spiritual being living a human life. And then as things evolved, that density got caught up in the experience, which took us further away from our true self. And now we're coming back to our true self. So that is why we might see the pyramids. That's why we might see these different things on Earth that we haven't really fully been able to understand, like how the heck did that get made, or why is that there, or what is going on with that? It's because the Earth has the memories of the evolution that has been going through. and the connection of who we are, and the vibrations and the connections beyond the physical realm, and how we have worked with the entire universe in coming to the point where we are now. And it's not that collaboration with other star systems and things beyond this physical realm hasn't always been there. It's just that we have gone through a process of being so asleep and so disconnected from that truth that it's almost like it's new and exciting for us to start to learn that, oh, there's aliens, but they've always been there. It's just the density in which we are letting go of at this point is allowing us to reconnect with that truth and re-understand who we are in that higher frequency. So that all being said, there is an actual split happening. Now, another thing that humanity struggles with as far as like a split is that we think, well, what's going to happen with the people that don't go to New Earth? Are they going to die? Are they going to like be stuck? Like, what is going to happen? And like I was just explaining, as far as like those of us that are awake, having gone through the evolution of our reincarnation and coming to the point where we're ready to shift into that next vibration, there are still souls that are going into the 3D experience for the first time. There are still souls that are working through those karmic energies. There are still souls that are working through the lessons that they wanted to learn, because source energy is eternal. And source energy, what we would call God, is continuing to make more of itself. That is a never-ending process. So our soul, the little frequency that we hold in our higher self, could have been created 2 billion years ago and have been experiencing multiple experiences throughout the universe. And right now here on Earth, we only know of this one. We have no idea at one point we played the role of an angel. We have no idea that at one point maybe we were a dragon. We have no idea at one point maybe we were Pleiadian. Like, some of us are coming back into that awareness as we awaken, and that's why more of us are getting more connection and wisdom with higher energies and frequencies, and having angel communication, or being able to channel, or having visions and dreams, or understanding about what star system we come from and all that. Like, there is that understanding coming back into our awareness, but we don't know what we have experienced in our soul or how long we have been a frequency. And if we go back into the truth of what source energy is, what God is as an eternal being, that means that we also have been in existence forever. And we will continue to be in existence. And that's what the infinity sign stands for. And so what our soul is doing is creating a whole bunch of infinity signs and creating a wheel, which we call time. So the wheel of time of our soul is coming into the evolution of where it's ready to elevate into a new frequency and understanding of itself. And in order to do so, we've had to work through what we originally first wanted to do. And now that we're at that point, we're ready to ascend. However, because Source is continually creating more and more of itself, there are souls that are what I like to call less experienced in the energy of the 3D, and their soul actually wants to stay in the 3D. To us that are ascending into a high frequency, or maybe moving into New Earth, we think that's negative. We think, oh my gosh, I don't want them to be like, what's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to that? What's going to happen to that? And I think we have to release the idea that anything's negative or positive in this experience. It just is. It's just an experience. And it's so hard because our experience is so real. And when you look around at what's happening on Earth right now, especially here in the United States, like, we can get really caught up in this storyline and believe that this is eternal, like that is like there's a possibility of like the end happening because of this. And that this density and the hard part of this expansion and then the ascension is going to collapse us. But we have a capacity and ability to continue no matter what, because that's how powerful and eternal we are. And we can recreate things at any point. So our higher self is still in control. It just has purposely separated its energy and a capacity to allow us to have this experience and the free will of this experience to be able to learn from it as much as we possibly can. So I'm going to get my whiteboard out so I can draw you a couple pictures to help maybe clarify some of what I'm saying and help you understand it on a visual level, because I always like visual things. And hopefully this will help you, because I want to assure you that things are shifting, like in a divine timing, in what you could say. And I know things appear to be really hard and dense and heavy right now, but I can also pretty much promise you that what is coming is going to be worth it. Okay, so I have my handy whiteboard here, and I'm going to draw you a picture of the actual vision that I got probably 4 years ago about the earth splitting. And this is what my higher self showed me as far as like the energies of new earth and the 3D energy earth that is going to remain kind of left behind, is what we could say. So what they did was they showed me a circle, and like I said in my vision, like that's what I saw, this circle splitting into two. But this represents earth. This represents the energy of the 3D earth. And so what they explained to me was that this energy is not necessarily going away. It's just shifting a part of itself and rebirthing it part of itself. It's almost like the way that my spirit team is kind of putting in my head right now is like when a mother gives birth. The mother doesn't go away. The mother doesn't disappear. It just transforms, and it changes in its energy, but it births another human through it, which is birthing a new life. So the earth is birthing a new life, is what is the way you could think about this. So earth, Gaia, this is earth, is birthing a new life. So the way that they showed this to me was this way. They showed me that the earth was starting to split, and there was another energy emerging and birthing from it. So these two circles, this is the split, and we could say that this is a 3D, and then this is going to be the 5D over here. But in the meantime, what is happening is there's a major shift and awakening among humanity and within the earth happening here in the middle part right here. Okay? So this is where all of us are experiencing our spiritual awakening. Now, there are souls and spirits and humans that have yet to work through that evolution, the learning experience for their soul, who are still here in the 3D. So these humans will stay here as this shift happens. And then over here is what we would call the awakened energy, the awakened humans or souls. These are the elevated experiences, not necessarily better, not more important, not, have the ego wants to make things seem as if one is better than the other, but there's not. You have to have both to have the experience. You have to have the negative and positive. You have to have to create a new human. You have to have the male and the female to come together. So this is what we would consider the masculine and the feminine creating and birthing a new life, birthing a new energy. So as the 3D is shifting one way and the 5D is shifting another, there's this process of expansion happening in the middle that is causing this energy of alignment, energy of growth, energy of expansion, energy of awakening, energy of healing, energy of releasing karma, energy of discovering who you are. So here in the middle part is where there are still souls that are working through the process of whether they're going to be staying in 3D or moving into the 5D. And neither is right or wrong. And so this is why I think some of us start to think like, well, what is going to happen with my friends or my family that are not awakening? What is going to happen? Are they going to be left behind? Are they going to die? What is going to... Well, first of all, I want to say we all will eventually leave this human body. Your body is not eternal. So yes, everybody's going to die. But that is not the end. Just like I was talking about working through the grief of my grandmother and it being different than the grief of my father, I evolved in my understanding of what death is. And now I don't see it as a permanent, really dark energy. I see it as an evolution. I see it as an expansion. I see, I can even feel my dad's energy coming through right now, and the excitement and the joy that comes from the life and the death and the birth and the rebirth and the, coming back into this experience. And some of us that have graduated from needing to have this dense energy or the human earthly heavy frequency, we have come to the point where we're not going to have to do that again. And those of us that are healing and in this middle state where we're still working on shifting to one or the other, especially those of us that are shifting into the 5D, we are working on releasing the karmic energies, not just for ourselves, for the lineage that we came to be born in. So I'm not just releasing energy and karma of my own lives that I have been living. I'm helping release the energy and karma of my soul family, of the tribe that I continue to incarnate with, because we all have souls, a soul family that we incarnate with. I believe, if I remember right, it's around 15 to 20 or so people on earth that we share a similar frequency with. This because we are all part of the same family tree. We might all be on one limb together, but we all have a similar experience. That's why you might meet people and you'd be like, I feel like I've known you for a long time, or I resonate with you, or I connect with you, because there's a similarity. There's a time, you guys are on the same timeline. You're working through the same things. You might be learning. It may not be the actual same lessons, but you are evolving at a pretty similar rate together. And that kind of shows you what your soul family is. And then you might have part of your soul family that is a little bit behind. And so they might come into your life to work with you and your energy to evolve into that next position, that next frequency. And like that, somebody else in your soulmate family might come along for you as a healer or a friend or a family member, and they'll pull you into that next frequency that you are meant to shift in. So there's all this stuff happening in the middle right here that is super important. And that is why this shift is happening at the rate that it's happening. It can't necessarily happen in this really quick timeline because there's so much happening in the energy with all this in the middle. So as this continues to open up and expand, the energy of the 5D is going to the earth and its energy, the 3D frequency, the earth, and the new earth that is being birthed is going to become these are really bad circles, is going to become further and further apart. And there's going to be less and less souls in the middle working on things. And so the 3D energy is going to be splitting into this frequency and the 5D energy over into this frequency. And so those in the ascension, those who are ascending, who are going through the awakening, going through the healing, going through the process of learning who they are as a spiritual being, will be moving into the new earth, into the 5D energy. Now, I'm hearing questions from whoever's watching this. I can feel your energy, and I hear somebody asking, well, what's going to happen over here? Where will these people ever move into that new energy as well? And here is what I hear Spirit saying right now. This process, this is not the first time Earth has gone through this. This is not the first time humanity has gone through this. We cannot remember that. But the universe, as I was saying earlier, is eternal. And so if you look at the infinity sign, which this is a really bad infinity sign, there's a continuation. Life, death, life, death, life, death, life, death. So the earth, this is just our experience of new earth. This is just the timeline we are on. But there have been other ones, other experiences throughout the universe where there have been rebirths. Why do you think there's continuing to be new things born in the universe? Why is there discovery of new planets all the time? Why do you think that we're becoming aware of new things all the time? Because there's always expansion and growth. There's always a death and a rebirth. Just like we cannot see the dinosaurs in our timeline right now, it doesn't mean the dinosaurs don't still live in their timeline. It means that death of that frequency and time for our evolution is no longer needed for where we are now. So if we were to reincarnate back into the time where the dinosaurs were, we would experience that because we need to learn something from it. So there's an evolution that is happening throughout everything as things are expanding. So what will happen with this 3D frequency and energy of the old earth is it will start a new experience. It will start a new rebirthing of itself. And throughout billions or trillions or however many years, it will start having its own experience. And the new earth will split off from it. And so New Earth will be experiencing itself over here, and then a whole new opportunity for another birth is going to start creating itself. And so all of these people that were left behind are going to start working again in this, and then the evolution will start again. And that is the creation of New Earth. That's the creation of a new energy. That is how we are expanding throughout this experience. Let me share some insights about what Spirit has told me, particularly about where we are right now in this process. The visions they have been giving me recently is that circle coming more and more apart and the split becoming more and more evident. I think that if you are an awakened soul, you can clearly see two different frequencies happening on Earth. They're both important. They're both here with a purpose. They're both playing a role. You need the masculine and feminine. You need the light and dark, the yin and yang to work together for a birth. And so one is not necessarily wrong and one is not necessarily right. In our human ego, in our understanding of how things should really be, because we are divine beings that know we are love as we have awoken, as we've become more of our true original self as a spirit, we have an understanding that love and unity is all that matters. So we are wanting and striving for that to take place on Earth. We're desiring for unity. We're desiring for peace. We're desiring for love. We're desiring for equal rights for all humans. Like that is where we're evolving. And you could probably talk, I would say, at least 60 to 70% of the people that have awakened, I can almost promise or guarantee you, they have at one point been on one side of the fence and now are on the other. where they have evolved and they have awoken and they begin to understand things in a different way. I know I went through that process. If you know anything about my story, I used to be a super psycho Christian. And so had you asked me before 2016 if I were to support the leadership that are coming in, that's in right now, at that point in my evolution and my comprehension and understanding, I probably would have said yes, because I did not see beyond the veil and the programming of my ego mind at that time. But as I awoken, as I shifted and changed, as I began to become a new human and ascended to the higher frequency, my awareness and my ability to see things became more clear. And that dense energy in the fog that I was trying to evaluate the world through began to fall, and the box that I live in began to open up and expand. And so those who are awakening begin to shift in their identity. And when we shed an identity, it can be painful. It's just like a snake like growing. That's why a lot of people, like, that's why the kundalini is represented by two snakes. It's the snakes coming up through our chakras and ending with our third eye. And if you look at the medical symbols, like, that's what it is that energy field of the kundalini, and it's shifting in our energy and awakening our mind, awakening our awareness. But if that energy is not flowing correctly through our body because we have density or trauma, or we're holding on to negative beliefs or the ego's programming, then that ability to expand our consciousness and awareness is blocked. So the people that are still in that place where the energy can't shift in their frequency or their beliefs or where they are in their process of evolution, then they're still working on understanding how to be in whatever frequency that they're in before they evolve into the next one. And this is why right now, what the energies are attempting to do is take the foundation of how everything has been built up until this point, break it down, expose it, and rebuild it. It's a rebirth. And birth is messy, birth is painful, birth is hard, because everything inside of you comes out. Not to be like gross or vulgar, but that is what happens. So there's people in leadership playing parts and roles in their human sims, their video game role, to expose what no longer can go into New Earth. But they're also playing the role for those who are still learning based on that lower density and 3D energy, and that might stay in that energy. So we have to be careful about judging whether anything's right or wrong in this, and we have to stay neutral, and we have to remember to stay in the frequency of love. Because the truth of it is many of you here on earth that are watching this, whether you know it or not, you are literal portals of light. You came to earth for the purpose of simply being a energy, a frequency of light in the density in the world. You are like the rays of sunshine that are shining down through the clouds. You know how you can see those rays of sunshine that come down through the clouds, and it's so beautiful, and it's like you can see the light lines coming out. That's who you are. And you're needed, because the more of those combine together, the more light comes through. So you are that light piercing through that dense energy to expose things. And so in a way, we have created this. We have invited this in to awaken us into the next frequency so that we can split that energy and move forward without having this old belief and density that we have been functioning in the new earth. Because this rebirth that we're going through is super messy, but it's needed to pull together those people that are still in the middle of the two energies in the split to have the contrast of those two frequencies to expand their awareness, to clear out those karmic energies, to awaken them. And that's why it's difficult for some of us that have already kind of moved, and we're much closer to that 5D energy. We're much closer. We're in the 4D is where we are. And we know what 5D is. We know, we get little glimpses of it once in a while, but we also know what 3D is. And we can look at the 3D and we can be like, what the frick are you doing? Come over here. But they're still in that experience for a reason. And we're in our experience for a reason. And the ones in the middle that are still yet to decide which way they're going to go based on their soul's mission and the karmic energies and the lessons that their soul wanted to learn, whether they split into the 3D or the 5D is not important. It's the fact that they're here at this particular time playing the two dense roles, two frequencies to allow the birth to happen. And so I know a lot of people are like, okay, well, what's going to happen? How fast is this going to happen? Where, can we get through this already? Trust me, I am there. I will say the visions that I have gotten about this shift and how it's going to take place, I have heard multiple times in my higher self. I can tell you, I knew over 2 years ago that Trump would be our next president. I remember I was on a walk with a friend a couple years ago, and I don't know why that week something came up in me, and I heard from my spirit team, Trump will be your next president. At the time, I'm like, no freaking way. Oh my God, no freaking way. But there was just this knowing that was inside of me. And so I remember I told my friend on a walk, I was like, I think I just got a message that Trump is going to be our next president. And she's like, oh, no way. We've evolved way past that. But we haven't. And this is proof. What is happening on Earth is proof that we have not evolved past that. Because if we had, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have to go through this experience. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do in the middle of this is to try to hold this vision of why we're in this experience. And remember that vision of the light coming down through the clouds and how important that is that you hold that light. And the more that we all hold that light, the more that this shifts and the quicker it shifts, because light always shifts the dark, denser energies. But we have to be consistent in holding that. We have to stay in that frequency of love. We have to stay in the energy of believing and manifesting that new earth timeline for ourselves. And also letting go of the fear of what could possibly happen or what is happening, and refocus our vision towards the future of the earth that we know is going to happen, where we're all unified in love and peace and compassion and one as humanity, like allowing ourselves to be who we are without reservation here on earth. And that's the vision that we need to hold. As far as our current leadership, the visions that I have been getting with the shift in that is I have seen our president, the way that my spirit guides have shown this to me is they showed me a pair of pants, and I'm going to try to be a little vague on how I share this. They showed me a pair of pants that were on a certain person that that maybe appears to be orange in some kind of way. And they took me really close to the seam, the side of these pants. And they showed me a little part of the seam of the pants starting to unravel. And what I heard was he will eventually expose himself. And we just have to keep the energy of love and trust that this will happen. And over time, as that seam starts to pull and it opens and it unravels, the truth also unravels with it and becomes more and more clear. And so where we are right now is needing to hold the patience of understanding that the unraveling, the exposing, the awareness of the truth is on its way, but sometimes it takes a minute to pull that seam all the way open. And it's just now starting to pull. I think that if you pay attention to what is going on around us, there have been a lot of things coming out that have been exposing of self for this person. And so that is going to be happening over what they have shared with me. And I hesitate to say like an actual timeline, because time is always based on energy. And the more we hold this light, the quicker this happens. But the timeline they have shown me is 2.5 years. And so as far as we are right now, maybe 2. And I don't say that to worry people or to make people think, oh my God, we have to go through this for another 2 years. But I also want you to know that we really do have power to change things. Our energy, our beliefs, the frequency we hold has the ability to shift things much quicker. So as long as we are continuing to be aligned with our higher self and working towards things that hold a higher frequency, we can shift timelines much quicker. So we just have to keep holding that hope and that love for the future. I will also say that there's been fear about what's going to happen as far as like harm or war, these things. And I can tell you that what I have heard in my higher self, and like I said, I'm just interpreting what my spirit team has shared with me, is this understanding that you have to be pretty coherent and intelligent to be able to manifest and hold a frequency and to hold something in place. And the way that I've come into understanding is, even if we move towards something like that, like a war in some sense, it's not going to be able to hold very long, because the intelligence behind it is not going to be able to maintain it. And so what I see is something happening, like it's almost like it bursts, and then it's not capable of continuing for very long. Not that it can't happen, it won't happen. Like I said, everything's energy, but it's like it has nothing to grasp onto, is what I'm kind of getting. And I also want to bring to your awareness that some of the positives that are already happening around the earth are the unity and the connection of all the other cultures and experiences and countries coming together to support each other and supporting us in the United States. Like, we have come into the awakening and understanding of other cultures that we have never come into until this point. Like, we are awakening to the truth of what's really outside of our walls. We are coming into the understanding that maybe we weren't taught right. Maybe we were repressed in some type of way. And we're also coming into the understanding that it's very possible the rest of the world is a little bit in a higher frequency than what we have been. And so we're kind of catching up. We're the babies on earth that are waking up. And I truly believe that we are the last part of that shift happening on earth to awaken us into new earth. And so there's positive things that are birthing through all this experience. There was one more thing that I wanted to share before I end this, and that is that this process that is happening is not easy. And I don't want to gaslight anybody when we are going through this really difficult time, because as we are humans, this is our experience. This is real. This is what we are feeling. And in order to allow energies to move through us, we have to allow ourselves to acknowledge it. We have to allow ourselves to feel it. And so if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling scared, you're feeling stuck in some way, don't try to run away from it. Lean into it and go to a healer, go to someone that can help you move that energy out, because we are also a part of the expansion. And when we're doing our own individual work and exposing our own shadows, that also shifts the frequency around us. And that is needed for this timeline to move quicker. And I don't think that it's necessarily going to move any quicker than it needs to, because those souls that are meant to shift into the higher frequency, into the new earth, they need that time also, that maybe some of us that have been on this journey a little bit longer have already had. So those of us that have been on the journey a little bit longer are here to help and guide and assist those coming through this new awakening that's happening, the next wave, so that we can all merge together in unity and love and kindness to help usher in this birthing of the new earth. So I know this was a ton of information, and again, if there's something that resonated with you, or if you have questions about something, please leave a comment below, ask your question. If you have something that you want to say it. If you want to reach out to me, send me an email, whatever it is that you need. Just remember to take care of yourself and to understand that this experience is real, but also try to take some time to see it from your higher self's perspective. And understand that we really aren't going to be stuck in this for super long. I will say within the next 5 to 6 years, we are going to start getting a glimpse of what New Earth really is. And we're going to start to see things shifting in a really beautiful way. And I'm very excited about that. And that's what gives me hope right now. So I hope this was supportive and helpful for you. And I wish you the absolute best day, night, evening, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are on the earth. And I send you all the universal love. Namaste.